Welcome back. We're going to talk about the price of fuel this evening because it is unrelenting. There is just no respite despite the situation that is ongoing. One also has to observe that the prices of fuel were not increasing over the weeks that coincided with elections in 4 states and 1 union territory. Now, in the last 1 month, we have seen 14 hikes. Fuel prices have been hiked 14 times. The latest today is leading to triple-digit numbers in several parts of the country. So in Mumbai, for example, petrol is retailing at 99 rupees and 94 paise. Delhi is at 93 rupees 74 paise. Jaipur has crossed 100 rupees and 23 paise. Is it really fair? The question just has to be asked. Is it fair that this load is put on people at a time when they're already reeling? So many families are reeling from high health expenses. Jobs have been lost. Incomes have been impacted. Businesses have been ruined. And it's not just those who are in their vehicles who get impacted by petrol and diesel prices. As is well known, it has a cascading effect. So is there really no way out of this? That's what we need to talk about today. And joining me on this discussion is, I'm speaking with R.S Sharma, former CMD of ONGC, and I also have with me Mr. Mahendra Arya. He's the National President of the All India Transporters Welfare Association. Welcome to both of you and thank you for speaking with us. Mr. Arya, let me just begin by getting a sense from you on what is going on right now. Are transporters already reeling from the kind of restrictions because of the second wave of COVID-19? And how do the high fuel prices then impact you?
So this is an ongoing process as far as the fuel is concerned. Fuel has always been a cash cow for the government. There has been no relationship between the retail pricing and the crude prices internationally. I recall 4 years ago, around 4 years ago, it was started that the prices will be monitored on a daily basis. And the commitment of the government was that this is for a better transparency and clarity for the fuel users also, customers also, corporates also. But somewhere down the line, that promise has gone into thin air. There's no relationship between the crude and the prices now. And we, the transporters, we have to bear the brunt all the time. As far as the government is concerned, they have iron-walled themselves on the subject of diesel fuel. Whenever we try to talk to the ministry, they say you can talk anything else but not the diesel. So that is the situation. Now with this kind of changes, 14 increases in a month, how do we do business? Now today I commit somebody for a particular service tomorrow. I'm not sure I'll be able to do that at the same cost tomorrow. Because 14 means what? Every alternate day you are changing the prices. So that is the situation. I think the transport industry on the whole is going through a very, very bad time. On one hand, there's Corona, the business is reducing day by day, factories are closed, retail outlets are closed, movement is reducing, of course. That makes it an excessive supply of the vehicle. And at the same time, the cost is high. We cannot realize the cost from anybody. That is the situation.
Mr. Sharma, what can be done in this situation and how do you look at the reasoning of piling on these high fuel prices at a time like this? I mean, the reasons are not difficult to look at. Obviously, incomes from other quarters will be dwindling for the central government. There are estimates that GST numbers might not be great for May and June. They were very good for April, but May and June might be a different story. Is that why the pressure has increased to shore up government finances, to buffer government finances from fuel prices?
You're absolutely right, Tamanna. You would have seen that since the last year when the lockdown happened and when there was a last year in the April, there was a crash in international crude prices. That time the government did not allow the retail prices to go down and there was a steep increase of the excise duty. Perhaps that was 11 rupees, if I recall, on petrol and 13 on diesel. something like this. And every time the prices were low, they kept on increasing the excise duty, because if we look from the perspective of the government, petroleum products for the central government as well as the state government provide the largest share of the revenue base they have. And the ease of collection. They don't have to do anything. Oil marketing companies, they collect and deposit government treasury, though there's no leakage of revenue, and the government feels most convenient. There's a flexibility whenever they feel they are able to, increase the excise duty. And state government, since the VAT is ad valorem, automatically they get the increased VAT. The burden comes on the consumer. Mr. Arya is absolutely right. Only I will slightly disagree with Mr. Arya that he said there is no linkage between the international crude prices and the petroleum products. The linkage is very much there. But he's right, when the election build-up was there, the government being the owner, having the ownership stake in the IOC, HPC, BPC, somehow, I don't know how they are able to influence. But during that time, these companies don't increase the prices. And after the elections are over, so then slightly every day they start increasing the prices. And that is what Mr. Arya has stated, that everyday increase in prices does not have linkage to the international, crude prices. International crude prices today are in the range of $68, $69. But they are not increasing every day the way the product prices are increasing every day. So that adjustment is being done by these companies, I presume, under tacit approval of the government.
I mean, that is clear as day. That is clear as day. It would be very difficult to refute that there is a clear linkage over when fuel prices go up and when they don't. I mean, and we have discussed this in the past, Mr. R.S. Sharma, that governments do depend on fuel taxes, because they're easy to collect. There is very little leakage, and there is no way to even avoid them. It's a low-hanging fruit. My question is that, is it fair to do this right now? I mean, we've reported just yesterday that edible oil prices are at an 11-year high. So imagine the plight of the common man. But what I want to understand from you, Mr. Sharma, is can the government afford to, and can they find a way to pull back on this, considering that taxes form such a huge component of the price per litre, up to 60% of the price per litre?
Agreed, I agree with you. The only option the government has is that, they have to forget about this is an unprecedented crisis the economy is facing. An unprecedented crisis demands unprecedented decisions also. Yesterday, Uday Kotak has said this is the time government has to print money. They have to infuse liquidity in the economy, and at the base of the pyramid, provide relief to those people, provide relief to industries to give employment. I think instead of simply passing on the burden to this transport sector, because consumers per se, if you ask me, my car is not getting used. But transport sector, the commercial vehicles, they are plying every day. And I agree with the pain that Mr. Arya conveys on behalf of the transporters, that the burden is too heavy for them. And, first burden comes on them, but indirectly that gets passed on in the increase in the CPI also. So it is not that they absorb at their level, but that is the first point at which they suffer. I feel the government has to, take a decision. Instead of passing the entire burden to the consumer, they need to take a call on reducing the taxes, excise duty, VAT, etc. on these petroleum products, and instead, agree to further increase the fiscal deficit. It will have inflationary impact, But unfortunately, it is an unprecedented situation. We have to face that. Perhaps that would be more appropriate rather than indirectly simply passing on the burden to this transport sector.
Mr. Arya, give us a clearer picture on how you are impacted by these high fuel prices and what is the load coming through. Has this led you to increase your prices substantially?
Tamanna, let me explain how the transport system works in India. Now, number one, there are two layers. One is the truck owners, the second is the transport companies. Now, truck owners, 80% of the truck owners are single truck owners. A person who has collected his money, invested in a truck, either he is driving the truck himself or he has employed somebody. So now how will he relate this everyday price to his costings? So he is the first victim in the process. He cannot realize his cost clearly. And the next person who comes into picture is the transport companies, because they are committed to the corporates and the industrial users about the prices, etc. But they cannot control their cost even for a day. So the total impact is coming on this. Mr. Sharma said that we can pass it on to the customer. Now, had it been so simple, I think nobody would have cribbed also. But the fact of the life is, it is impossible to pass on the effect further. People are working on negative margins, negative profits, and they have to run the show. That is why they run the show. Otherwise, there's no point running the business in the present circumstances. Everybody will be better off closing down the business. See, on one hand, the government wants us to run the show so that the logistics is on the run. Because you call it essentials, medicines, everything has to work, the food. So all the supplies the government wants to be operated properly. But this zero consideration for the plight of the transporter who has to make all these things happen. But he's making it happen. Even in the last year, when everything was haywire on the highways, there was no food, nothing. Still the transporters were operating, and even now they are operating. And the government has got no concern about how they run the business. They should come out with a mechanism. Okay, we are increasing it every day, and there is a transformation theory. Let the prices be changed by all the corporates accordingly. We don't mind. Let there be index of increase. So that index, 60% is the share of diesel in our total operational cost. Now, how do we meet that? This is the main raw material. And my raw material is changing every day, and you want me to sell my product at the same price? I think this is just not happening. Another fact which Mr. Sharma said, again I'll refute, that it is directly linked to the crude prices. It is linked to so many factors, but the crude prices. Had it been so, you remember the last year what has happened? The crude had come down to $20 a barrel. What was the price at that time? The government very smartly increased the excise duty twice or thrice over a period of 2-3 months, so that the prices remains the same level what it was when the crude was at $40 or $45. So that benefit was totally held back by the government. And when it started increasing further, then the government started increasing again. So this is something which never goes down, but it will always go up if the crude goes up. So this is a one-way connection with the crude of the diesel. I had shared a chart with ET. I don't know whether you have got it. That shows you a clear relationship between the crude and the finished goods. If you show that.
No, I get that. I get your point, Mr. Arya. I get your point. It is very. I get your point. Very opportunistic to say it's linked with crude, but then de-link it when it is convenient. When crude prices are going down, it is not as if there is, a concurrent reduction in retail prices. My question to you is that now, what are your demands? What is the representation that you're making to the government? Because the policy on fuel prices and taxes on fuel prices is a large one. If you go to the central government, they say that, states have to agree, let's bring it under GST. States say that I'm not getting enough of my revenues from GST. We're going to see those fights in the GST meeting tomorrow. At least let me get my VAT out of, petrol and diesel. So what really are you hoping to find from the Transporters Association?
See, the transporters are asking only for the survival. It is not that we expect anything huge out of in the present circumstances. But as we are part of running the country, let me emphasize that we are running the country. Without transporters, this country will never run. There won't be any export, there won't be any import, there won't be any manufacturing, there won't be any selling. So when we are so important to the entire ecosystem, there should be some consideration. Government should have a thought process. How do you translate the changes in the diesel prices into the cost? Let government come out with an index in the transportation cost. Everybody will follow the index. There is a certain price changes in the diesel, the index changes by so much. Let every corporate, let every government company, all private companies also follow the same index. Let it be increased, let it be decreased, both ways. But this will at least safeguard the transporters. We'll be able to operate. In the present circumstances, most of us are doing a negative profit business. We cannot meet our actual cost of operation in our selling prices.
You know, this is a very important point to consider in light of what we're going to see tomorrow. And I want to thank R.S. Sharma and Mr. Arya for coming on the show and outlining it. Transporters are indeed the backbone of how we are operating today. Very, very crucial. They're saying they're not able to pass on all of the prices as they are hiked because of various factors and circumstances. But eventually, there is a cascading effect of high petrol and diesel prices. There is little doubt about it. Is there really room to reduce is the question. And we will see some of that intent in the GST meeting that will take place tomorrow, the first one in several months, in over 6 months, when centers and central government and state government will sit together to decide what to do. One of the things on the agenda will be whether they can reduce all taxes on COVID-related items, whether there should be zero duty. That is also a demand that has been put forward. We'll be tracking that story very closely tomorrow, so don't forget to tune in tomorrow on the India Development Debate. But for now, I want to thank all of you for joining us. Stay safe.